Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started. My name is Becky Lifford, and I am the CCO Health Home Program Director here at OPWDD. And I want to take a moment to welcome everyone to today's training here on the Certified Residential Opportunities, otherwise known as the CRO ADM, for CCOs. Where in this training, we will cover the selection or all of the sections of the ADM in detail. We appreciate the time you are taking to be part of this live training on such an important topic. However, this training will be recorded and posted in SLMS. When the posting is available, it will be announced via the Care Coordination Advisory. If there are questions during the presentation, you may enter them into the chat. But today we have almost 1,000 attendees. So please be patient with us as we do have staff monitoring the chat, but we will not be able to get to every question. We will be tracking questions and developing a future resource for them. There will be one official break during the training, but we may also pause as necessary to answer questions. So I'm briefly going to go over today's agenda. We have the purpose of the ADM. We're going to review the CRO regulations, which drove this ADM. We're going to review the ADM itself, including the key question, what does least restrictive truly mean, and the CRO referral process. We're also going to briefly introduce the Capacity Management Application, otherwise known as CMA. And so I'll soon be turning it over to our Associate Commissioner of Program Implementation and Service Access, Alexis Harrington. But first, I wanted to let you know that there are some additional presenters that will follow today. Following Alexis will be Delia Tucker, our Statewide Operations Director of the Regional Field Offices, and Cindy Smolkula, Statewide Certified Residential Opportunities Coordinator. So with that, I will turn it over to Alexis Harrington.
Thank you so much, Becky. We can go to the next slide. All right, thank you so much. So I am sure that most of you by now have seen this formally issued CRO ADM. And if you have, then you will already know that this ADM is really identifying OPWDD's requirements for residential provider agencies and providers of care management in the Certified Residential Opportunities process. What we're really trying to do within this process is ensuring that the most integrated and least restrictive housing options are explored and made available to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities seeking services in residential facilities certified or operated by OPWDD. The CRO process is designed to facilitate sustainable, equitable, and accessible housing and residential supports. Access to housing and residential supports are managed by OPWDD to ensure equity and availability of services for those in the greatest need. So this visual just kind of explains that for all of you: transparency, clarity, consistency, equity, and most important, sustainability. So we have this resource in the future. Next slide. So OPWDD adopted these regulations governing admission to and the provision of services in residential facilities that are certified or operated by OPWDD on June 14th of 2023. So just really quickly wanted to highlight, I think everybody understands that OPWDD has a pretty clear vision. Part of that includes supporting people to live, work, and take part in their community. Our vision statement as an agency really articulates that people with developmental disabilities enjoy meaningful relationships with friends, family, and others in their lives, experience personal health and growth, and live in the home of their choice and fully participate in their communities. So while, yes, today our topic of discussion is certified residential opportunities, it is very important to remember that we are thinking about the person and what they want first. So this is, yes, explaining a resource that can be made available to those in greatest need. It is very important to remember the vision and mission of our agency. So just the highlights and cliff notes of the important areas within the regs. We are also explaining that the most integrated and least restrictive housing options have to be explored for people who are seeking services in residential facilities, and Delia is going to go in some great detail about what that really looks like and what that really means. Next slide. And then the regs also articulate just the requirement for care managers, residential providers partnering with us, OPWDD, to facilitate the provision of residential services when appropriate. Next slide, please. So what we also wanted to do was take a moment to cover all of the people and entities that are involved in the CRO process. So first, obviously, is the person who is looking for and desires certified housing. Additionally, their family members and their members of Circle of Support are involved in helping them. Next, we have care managers and CCOs who are critical in gathering information, updating life plans for submission of referral packets, assisting in coordinating screening with interested providers, giving updates to individuals and families on status and activities related to the placement process, and coordinating and applying for alternative services while placement options are explored. Then we have residential providers who are involved with the screening and placement. And then lastly, we have the OPWDD certified housing team through the regional field offices, and they are responsible for the administration and oversight of the CRO process to ensure the consistency and equity of this important resource to those with the greatest need. This is the theme you'll be hearing repeated throughout the presentation. Next slide. All right, so before getting into the details of the changes that are going to be taking place, we wanted to provide some clarity and some assurances. So the changes that are taking place can be categorized into three major buckets. There's change to guidance. So this includes the regulations that I just covered, ADMs, memos, and any of the slides pertaining to a change in guidance will have this little paper with a checkboxes symbol, and you'll notice that that symbol was on the reg slide to show that this is new guidance, and that should be helpful for when you kind of go back and revisit these slides. The next bucket is change to process. So based on the regs or ADM, there are certain parts of processes that have had to be modified, and we'll discuss what is really needed to modify these processes, how we will initially implement and obtain documentation, as well as future IT development. And so anything that's indicating a change in process will be highlighted with this symbol with the arrows going in a circle. So you will see that on several slides throughout the presentation. Then the last major bucket of changes is changes to the time frames. And so this is the time frames in which we complete our process. There are some clear timelines that have been identified to ensure that we are all responsible to really responding to people who are seeking certified housing. And so that little clock symbol will be on upcoming slides to highlight those changes as well. And so with the changes that are occurring, the most important thing is that what is staying the same is for you and your roles and responsibilities as a care manager and a member of the person circle of support. Again, just to kind of help highlight the changes, you're going to want to keep your eyes peeled for the process symbol and the time frame symbol, and in some instances there are both included on the same slide to highlight that there's a process and a time frame change. Next slide. So I know we briefly covered the regs. I think people also understand that the next level of clarification from the regulations is typically our administrative memorandum or the ADM. So what we wanted to also do is just give a quick overview of what is being changed within the ADM as it pertains to the CCOs and care managers. While much will remain the same, such as the need to submit a referral packet inclusive of supporting documentation, updating referral packets with significant changes, our AROC meetings, our designation categories that include emergency need, substantial need, current need, as well as a current DDP2, there are some changes that we will be covering that impact the CCO. These include referral packets needing to be updated annually with current documents for all individuals. The CAS and CANs are required as part of the application referral packet. There has been some modification to the EN, SN, and CN categories, which we'll cover later in the presentation. Notice of decisions with fair hearing rights associated with being placed on the Certified Residential Opportunities list. Dispute resolution process extending to 30 days. Some forms have been modified, including our H005 referral form and our H004 notification of residential support category. And then last but not least, prior to referral of a person for certified residential services, the care manager must ensure that the person and or their family, their advocate, or representatives as applicable acknowledges and understands that their information will be shared with OPWDD staff and provider agencies involved in the CRO process. So the CCO needs to attest that they have informed the individual and their family of this, and that is embedded within our H005, the referral form. Next slide. All right, and so here's just a quick overview of the 10 sections within the ADM. We will be walking through each of these areas with you today. And with that, I will turn it over to Delia.
Thanks, Alexis. So we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so yes, perfect. Thank you, everyone. My name is Delia Tucker. I'm the Statewide Operations Director for the Regional Field Offices. So I'll get started with Section 1. And over the next slides, we're going to go through the specific sections of the CRO ADM. We'll start with Section 1, which really focuses on the need to ensure that care managers are exploring the least restrictive and most integrated options so that individuals can utilize those supports prior to seeking certified housing. The components of this section help ensure the CRO process's intent to facilitate a sustainable system and equitable system that allows access to residential support for those in the greatest need. Next slide, please. I'd like to spend some time now explaining how we go about ensuring that the most integrated supports are explored prior to pursuing certified residential. It starts with understanding the person's housing need and why they're not being met in their current environment. The housing need must be referenced, obviously, in the person's life plan. And through the person-centered planning process, as well as engagement of the circle of support, the care manager must explore the most integrated and least restrictive option to accommodate the person's needs. You can see in this hierarchy chart that it flows from natural supports to community supports. And if those are not successful, it's appropriate to explore OPWDD non-waiver supports in addition to community and natural supports. And within the hierarchy of most integrated supports and services, Medicaid state plan can be explored, followed by a variety of HCBS waiver services. In the event that these combined resources prove unsuccessful in meeting the person's housing needs, a CRO referral may be pursued. And there's a lot to unpack here, so let's take a deeper look. We can go to the next slide. So here we have a list of natural supports, and they come through a variety of relationships that we make. And the relationships don't need to be familial in nature, but relationships that naturally form when people are integrated into their greater community. So obviously you know that this is not a comprehensive list, but they are examples that many of us have in our lives, and one that we should be looking to expand for those that we're coordinating care for. Next slide. So as mentioned, community supports available to everyone is another highly integrated way to support a person. These supports are available to a wide variety of people, not just those with IDD. And because the use of services is available to more than people with IDD, they are more integrated in the greater community and are expected to be explored first. Connection to one's greater community is a key way to ensure a higher quality of life and often helps to keep the person safe and secure. You can see some of the examples on this slide. For example, there's early intervention, state ed, and childcare assistance, as well as others that can help support people in the community. Next slide. After both natural and community supports are explored and accessed, if additional resources are needed to ensure a person's housing needs are met, we do have a variety of supports specific to people with IDD outside of our HCBS waiver that can be helpful. These include family support services, crisis services, including CSIDD, our regional field office crisis unit, as well as the Bureau of Technical Support, Article 16 clinic services, the Institute for Basic Research, and housing subsidies. Next slide. So moving along the continuum, the HCBS waiver has a variety of services that can support a person in their home and community to ensure greater success. Some can even support their caregivers. Support such as respite, family education and training, and intensive behavior supports. These supports are all available to help the caregiver learn best practices to support their loved one, as well as provide relief for caregiver duties. Some supports like EMOD, vehicle modification, and assistive technology can allow a person greater independence to care for themselves. They can also ease a caregiver's physical toll and care. Then there are specific habilitative supports that can help teach a person how to navigate their environment, gain new skills, grow, and form meaningful relationships, and have better outcomes in their home as well as community. These include employment services, community habilitation, and dehabilitation as well. And next slide. You'll see here that through self-direction, we have additional supports and services such as IDGS and paid neighbor or live-in caregivers that can assist. And residential habilitation is a service that is specific to the CRO process, but there are many other waiver services that can and should be explored first to ensure that there's greatest connection to the person and the community. Next slide. When we explore more integrated solutions, we see some pretty amazing outcomes for people. We see enhanced relationships and increased inclusion and belonging. A person's interest, knowledge, and hobbies also grow with more relationship and integration. They begin to see and experience more, build social capital in their communities, learning within the natural settings with the primary reinforcer of having the greatest impact. This leads to independence, self-reliance, and growth, as well as more confidence. Having these experiences truly allows a person's choice. Offering and exploring these options allows a person to make informed choices and explore dignity of risk, which all lead to belonging and feeling a productive member of their community. These are foundational principles of OPWDD and why Section 1 emphasizes its importance of exploring the most integrated supports and services for people with IDD prior to seeking certified housing. And now I'll turn it over to Cindy to review and conclude Section 1 with AROC.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, I'm Cindy Small-Kukla. I am the CRO statewide coordinator. I'm here to talk about the CRO ADM. Just so you know that AROC, the standard of AROC has not changed. I define AROC for people that are in need of residential support services, an increased need. This meeting gives the person or their advocate a chance to educate providers on who that person truly is. This time should not be spent just reading a CRO referral out loud. I want you to keep this in mind because care managers are welcome to attend, and might actually present a person at the AROC meeting. So next slide, please. Okay, we are going to talk about the residential referral process that is laid out in the CRO ADM. Next slide. This graphic shows the information in the first subsection of Section 2 of the CRO ADM. It reviews what needs to be considered and completed before submitting a CRO referral. When a person states that they want to move into an IRA or a certified setting, it is the care manager's responsibility to find out why and what types of supports and services have been tried. If little to no services are used or tried, it is the care manager's obligation to help obtain services before requesting CRO. OPWDD mission, the CRO REDS, and now the CRO ADM all emphasize less restrictive services. Certified settings are considered restrictive living environments. So care managers, it's up to you to work with the person and the family to research and try community services before coming to CRO. Next slide, please. Let's see. This slide shows you pretty much the bottom of the CRO referral form. With the CRO ADM, all the forms have been revised and updated, especially the referral form, the H004 form, the H005 form. No longer does the person or their family have to sign the form. Instead, the care manager is required to type their name on the form when submitting the packet. When you type or sign the form, you are confirming a few things. You are explaining that the CRO process to the family in person that includes that the certified housing team may refer the person to providers outside of the preferred counties or region. When you type or sign your name, you are confirming that the person agrees to live in a certified setting. You are confirming that the person or family has explored all other less restrictive options. And you are confirming that the person and the family are aware that at any time they could request the referral to be closed without any negative consequences. As a side point, it should be noted that the CRO process does not require a separate release of information form. Next slide. Okay, this continues in Section 2 of the CRO ADM. The CRO ADM will definitely enhance the CRO process, and it will impact and improve everyone's duties. Let's take a quick look at the difference between the 2015 protocol and the CRO ADM. The revised referral form, the H005 form, now has a lot of questions that give the person the opportunity to share valuable information about themselves. This will aid the residential providers that are looking to fill vacancies. The most important thing to remember is we want to make sure that people's needs and supports are being met, and with this enhanced revised form, that will do so. The revised H004 form, the notification of service or notification of need level, it just contains more information, and of course, with more information, it's always helpful. We now had initiated the notice of decision process for CRO, and the NOD 15 is dedicated to the CRO process. The person will be issued a definite yes or no when requesting certified. Consequently, if they disagree with the certified housing team's determination, there is a formal appeal process. Later on in the presentation, we will we will learn about the appeal process. Next, the CRO ADM requires assessments to be done and updated. Later in the presentation, we will review the requirements of the CAS or the CANS. But please note that the CRO referral will not be considered complete if this assessment is not current or completed. The CRO ADM speaks on the life plan being current and included in the referral packet, which is a standard for some time now. But the ADM has drilled down to include that the current life plan includes the signature page that needs to be included in the CRO packet. Last but not least, the CRO ADM has expanded the interpretation of each need level. The emergency need, the substantial need, the current need. It's all been expanded, and we will review that as well later in the PowerPoint. Next slide. Completing the CRO referral packet. A lot of this information is very familiar to you. There's only been a slight change with this. Let's see. Of course, there is a complete referral form. The H005 has to be complete. A current physical, current meaning within 365 days of the prior exam. A psychological report that reflects the person's current functioning level. A psych report does not have to be a year-old, 6 months old. It can be a 10-year-old psych report as long as it reflects the person and their current functioning. What is changed is the life plan. The life plan needs to be signed and submitted with the CRO referral packet. The DDP-2, that hasn't changed. However, it needs to be current, and when we talk about current, we're talking about within 2 years. What is new in the CRO process is the requirement of either a CAS or a CAN. The CAS or CAN needs to be completed and current. A CRO referral will not be reviewed unless one of those assessments are complete. A current CAS is considered, let me rephrase, to be considered current with a CAS assessment, it has to be within 2 years of the assessment date. A CANS assessment is considered current within 1 year of the assessment date. Next, please. Okay, this is just a list of the optional documents. This hasn't changed. You should be familiar with that. Let's see here. Let's see. If one of these documents are current, it should be added to the CRO referral packet. For example, if a person is on parole, there are parole conditions assigned to that person. Those parole conditions should be included in the CRO packet. Next slide, and Julia will take over from here.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, so now let's cover what happens upon receipt of a complete referral packet from each of you. So the certified housing team will review the referral packet and determine if there's a demonstrated need for the certified housing. They may be asking for more information in order to make this determination, which we will provide 30 days for the care manager to return this necessary information. If the complete packet has all of the necessary information, or after 30 days of the request for more information from the Regional Field Office Designation Review Committee, that's the committee within the certified housing team, they will make a determination and issue an NOD 15. The notice of decision will be sent to the person and or the family with a copy to the care manager. If the notice of decision is supporting the need for certified housing, the care manager will also receive the H004 form, which is the residential support category, outlining if the person is deemed emergency, substantial, or current need. Next slide, please. So let's talk about our forms. The forms within the CRO process have all been updated and modified. You'll see here that the purple hexagons on the screen are forms primarily associated with the care managers and care coordination organizations, and the gray hexagons are reserved primarily for our residential providers. Each of the 800 forms were shared with you in advance of today's training and are also posted on our website with the CRO ADM. The forms and the expectation of the CAS and CANs being completed as part of the CRO referral packet goes into effect on March 3rd, 2025. Packets submitted without the new forms beginning on March 3rd, 2025 will be returned. If packets are not complete upon submission, you will receive a missing information letter outlining what needs to be submitted in order to be considered a complete packet. Once a packet is reviewed, a review of all that has been submitted will occur, and either a request for more clarifying information will be requested or a determination will then be made. Next slide. So this visual gives a flow of how the referral packets will be processed. Until our capacity management application goes live, care managers should submit referral packets as they do today through the regional field housing mailboxes. The regional field office personnel will have decisions made within 30 days if accurate, and complete packets are submitted. So now I'll turn it over to Alexis to proceed with section 3.
Thanks, Delia. Next slide. All right, so as discussed in the ADM, a person's circumstances, as well as that of their family or caregivers, are all considered when determining the level of need for certified residential opportunities. Like we said earlier, there are 3 categories that are also described in the OPWDD Home and Community-Based Services Waiver, or HCBS waiver. Those are emergency needs, substantial need, and current need. I will walk you through these 3 categories and explain what is new language in the recently issued ADM. Next slide, please. All right, so as you can see on the left, this indicates what was included in the CRO protocol from 2015. So emergency need was classified as imminent risk of health and safety to self or others, having no permanent place to live, or primary caregiver is incapacitated. So for the CRO ADM today, we've got the same criteria as CRO Protocol 2015, but we also have people who are ready for discharge from institutional settings. This includes residential school students with their graduating year who do not have a placement opportunity identified. And then we also have included people who resided at Willowbrook, whose current homes may be closing, or they're interested in moving to a less restrictive setting. And moving on to the next, we'll cover substantial needs. So as you can see on the left, this highlights what was in the CRO protocol of 2015. Substantial needs is a person at increased risk of having no permanent place to live. A person's family or caregivers are becoming increasingly unable to continue to provide care to manage the person's needs. Then you can see what's in our ADM now. It's the same as CRO Protocol 2015, but we also are highlighting that people in ineligible settings who want community placement but are not ready for discharge would fall into this category. Also, people who are in transitional settings wanting OPWDD residential services but are not ready for discharge. An example would be the comprehensive adult transitional homes, or we love our acronyms, we call that CAS as well. Next slide. All right, so last but not least, current need. On the left, we see the CRO protocol from 2015. Articulating the criteria are people who have a need for certified residential services, and people who are ready to actively seek a residential opportunity, and people who, of course, do not meet the criteria as designated to have emergency need or substantial need. Our CRO ADM for current need, all of the same things as the CRO protocol of 2015. We've also highlighted that people in a residential school or those who are placed by ACS with another planned permanent living arrangement, APLA goal, and this must include housing as permanency planning goal, and are 16 years old or older without an adult placement and have not graduated. So that is just clarifying where we are today based on the ADM and how we are clarifying those 3 levels of designation categories. Next slide. So now moving into section 4 of the ADM that covers people moving from home and community-based waiver ineligible and specialized settings. Next slide. All right, so we've got a couple of slides that just are articulating how we're defining what these ineligible and specialized settings are. So when people reside within ineligible settings and a care coordination organization is not established with a person, the regional field office specialty liaison will work with the ineligible setting, the person, and their family until a CCO is identified and an enrollment specialist is assigned. The regional field office has several types of specialty liaisons to assist depending on the setting the person currently resides in. So in terms of our specialty liaisons, we've got our residential school transition coordinator, and those are staff who support people who are coming from any residential school, CRP homes, RTFs, and RTFs, those supported by ACS in New York City as well. Then we've got forensic liaisons who are supporting people coming from jails, prisons, correctional and secure facilities, and our ITOs in Sunmount and Shenango County or Broome. And then the last specialty liaison on this slide are the nursing home liaisons. So they are working with those in nursing homes, including rehab settings beyond 90 days and within assisted living. And what's really important for all of you to know is that it is expected as these transitions get closer to discharge within 3 months of that discharge that the CCO and the enrollment specialists are actively engaged in assisting with the waiver application and other documentation. Next slide. So then the rest of the specialty liaisons within the regional field office, we've got children's liaisons, and these folks work with those who are in foster care outside of ACS, which is really within New York City, and those children who are medically frail and fragile and in the children's waiver. Then we also have our crisis mitigation liaisons, and they are supporting those who are in hospitals, coming from the ETU in Queens, the OLV out in Region 1, some other additional resources that are coming online in specialty hospitals. And then last but not least, we've got our housing liaison who works with our residential providers for individuals in community ICFs, and this also includes the state-operated CAPs that I talked about on some previous slides. And again, just to highlight the really critical piece for all of you as care managers and CCOs is, again, it's expected that as we get closer to discharge, within 3 months of that person being discharged, the CCO and enrollment specialists are engaged in assisting with the waiver application and any other documentation that is needed. So now I'm going to toss it over to Cindy.
Hi, it's me again. Let's see, Section 5 of the ADM, we're going to talk about out-of-district statewide referrals. Okay, referrals can be sent outside of a person's home region 2 ways. The person might request it, or it could be the decision of the certified housing team. Due to the complexity of statewide referrals, the certified housing team does not make the determination for a statewide referral lightly. The team will evaluate the urgency of finding an opportunity and the local resources that are there. If it is determined that the local opportunity in a preferred county is likely not to become available in a reasonable period of time, the decision will be made to expand the search for a home. The important factor here for the care manager is to continue to find supports for the person and their family, and to ensure that the CRO packet is kept current and updated. Next. Okay, this represents the overall process once a CRO referral has gone out of the home region. Two important elements here. You, the care manager, will continue to communicate with the home region no matter where the referral goes. And two, you might be directly contacted by a residential provider outside of the home region to help coordinate screenings. Next. It is break time. It's time to relax your brain. We have 10 minutes. If you all could come back and pay attention to us at 1:54. Okay, I'll give you 1:55. That would be great. Thank you.
Cindy, not to interrupt the excitement of an impending break, but just wondering if we want to answer just a few of the quick questions that had come in. We did see a pattern of questions just before everybody runs off for a minute, asking about the life plan signature requirement. So we just wanted to clarify. We try not to do too much Q&A to detract from people paying attention to the presentation, where most of your questions are being answered today. But an in-process life plan per the ADM is sufficient, and as we all know, per the standards outlined for in-process life plan, that only needs to be signed by the care manager. So that is sufficient for the CRO referral. There's a lot of questions on that. So I don't know if any of our other panelists had other questions that they wanted to speak to quick while everybody's brains were fresh on this topic before we break. Okay, so we'll look through some of the other questions that have come through, and we can follow up after break.
Sounds good. Okay, everybody, I'll see you back here at, let's see, 1:56. Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome back from break. A couple of things I wanted to mention before we go into answering some of the questions that had a pattern. Two things. The life plan needs to be signed and included in a CRO packet, or an in-process life plan needs to be included in the CRO packet. So I wanted to really drive home that point. Other treatment plans, other life plans would also be accepted if there is not a life plan. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to cover was timeframes. Yes, the ADM is out there, but it is not going to be effective until March 3rd of 2025, meaning if you want to use the revised forms that are on the website, you are more than welcome to use them now, but you don't have to use them until March 3rd. If you're going to submit a CRO referral March 4th, please use the new forms, or the revised forms, I should say, the 8005 that is on the website with the ADM. So now I'm going to ask Amanda if there is any questions that were commonly asked.
We definitely had the life plan question, and just to clarify, since this is our CCO audience, that any CRO referrals that are submitted by CCO intake or care managers, that those are required to have a life plan or in-process life plan, so other treatment plans would not be sufficient unless, you know, there was emergency circumstances that were waived by the regional office, correct? That
Yes.
would be taken into consideration, but the standard is that another treatment plan would not be sufficient, that you would need to have that life plan. So we did have a lot of implementation and time frame questions that came in, and there will be a detailed timeline shared at the conclusion of the presentation that will make that clear to everyone, but that if you do have a current approved CRO packet and you have updates to make to that, you can do it on the new form, and after March it will be required that you do it on the new form, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There were questions about the specialty liaisons and getting the regional office contacts. So we did clarify that those specialty liaisons are available in each region by region, not DDSO, and that those contacts can be gained by contacting your local regional office, and they will direct you to the appropriate contact. That we don't have those lists available on our website.
Yes. Also, on the specialty liaison, they are only involved when a person is in an ineligible setting. So if a person is in a nursing home, there's going to be a specialty liaison that pretty much acts as a care manager until that person is linked up to a CCO. So there's going to be a few overlaps between the specialty liaison and a care manager, but just a few.
Great.
Any other questions, like commonly asked questions?
We had some asked around assessments that were due, so I know that you'll go through that later in the presentation, but the same expectation that, you know, as somebody may exist on the CRO list for some time, that all documentation does need to be kept current, so even if something's current at the time that it's submitted, it would need to remain current throughout the time, so providing updates at the appropriate times.
Just a note for assessments, a CAS assessment, a CANS assessment, the standard practice is that everybody that has OPWDD eligibility has a CAS or a CAN. If a person has a CRO referral that has been submitted prior to the ADM, prior to the requirement of the CAS or CANs being done before submitting the CRO referral, when the person's referral is up for an annual update, it is going to be the expectation that the care manager assists in getting the CAS or the CANs completed and updated.
Great.
Okay.
That was our last area, that there was a lot of CAS, CANs questions. So.
Perfect.
We're all set to keep rolling.
Okay, I believe that, Dio, you might have the next slide.
I do.
Do you?
I do. Let's keep going. Okay, so now I will cover section 6. And this is where we're going to spend some time talking about submissions to the certified housing team. We'll talk about keeping referral packets active for screenings to ensure that the packets are current, and that will assist with screenings. So let's move on to the next slide. So just to give you some background, one of the areas that we received a lot of feedback from providers is that it's difficult to make determinations on their ability to serve individuals when they have old or outdated referral packets. They discussed delays in screenings due to having to wait for current information, which resulted in delays in filling vacancies, and in some cases, missed opportunities for the people that actually needed housing. So to promote placements being made timely, we need to ensure that current packets are available for screenings. So an active referral packet is a current referral packet. So we'll discuss that more in the next slides. And until the capacity management application is live, updating the notifications can't be sent. Any notifications by the care manager can be sent via email to the regional field office through the specific regional field office certified housing team mailboxes. Those were put into the chat. And as stated earlier, the H005 has been updated with the new fields. You'll see the changes here. These new fields will help to match the person's required needs for housing to providers' homes that are designed to meet those specific needs. The new H005 is required to be completed beginning March 3rd, as Cindy mentioned. And the H005 and the referral packets need to be updated annually in alignment with the person's life plan, in addition to when there are significant changes that may occur. So I'll continue to go through this. As stated earlier, the notices of decision with fair hearing rights associated with being placed on the certified residential list is also a change here, and as well as the dispute resolution for the designation status process, which is extended to 30 days. So for those currently on CRO, updated CRO referrals will be required via submission of the housing mailboxes by completing the new A005 form starting March 3rd at their next annual or 6-month review. By September 2025, both new and current people on the CRO should have a current or active packet. They all will continue to need to be updated with their annual reviews to remain current for screenings. CCOs and supervisors must notify the regional field office within 5 days of any care management changes in assignments for people on the CRO. So that was also another change. Okay, so we're talking here about updates or any kind of reporting that needs to happen to the certified housing team. Okay, next slide. And Cindy is just going to reiterate what is an active referral.
I am. These are all the documents you will find in a complete, reviewed, and authorized CRO packet. The information on the slide might seem a bit repetitive, but it is good to review to make sure that care managers know all the information in the CRO packet and all the information that needs to be kept up to date and accurate. At a minimum, the CRO packet has to be updated annually, meaning the information in the referral must be reviewed. If any of the answers or information is not current or true, it is mandated that the information be updated and or corrected. The CAS is considered current if it is done within 2 years of the assessment date. The CANS is considered current if it is completed within 1 year of the assessment date. Of course, as standard practice, the medical report, the physical report needs to be kept current, and current meaning that it is 365 days from the previous exam report. And the psychological needs to be accurate as in it represents the person and their functioning level at that time. As I stated before, a psychological could be a year old or it could be 10 years old, as long as it accurately reflects the person's needs and functioning. Note that there will not be an updated NOD 15. Once a packet is authorized, once a person is authorized for certified residence, there will not be an annual authorization. The CRO packet will not have multiple H004 forms if the support level has not been changed or reevaluated. Someone will speak on the CRO referral updates, but I just wanted to bring to your attention that the CRO ADM it states that CCOs will be reminded about updating CRO packets. If those reminders go unanswered 2 consecutive times, the certified housing teams will consider the packet to be outdated and made inactive. If a CRO packet is inactive, it means that the person will not be able to be referred to any potential opportunities. Celia?
Okay, thank you. So we reviewed what is required in an active referral. So for clarity, let's take a look at what happens at the annual reviews and what is required when there's a significant change in circumstances for a person that's seeking housing. So as stated annually, at the time of the person's life plan, the CRO referrals must be updated with current information to remain active for screenings and target referrals. That will require the care manager to review the current 8005 on file and update any changes, as well as attest that they've reviewed the CRO process with the person and their families, including the need to share the life plan and packet on file. It will require submission of the new or current signed life plan, their current physical that is less than a year old, and a psychological that is reflective of the person's current state. The care manager can just submit the packet to keep the current status, or if significant updates have been made, can ask that the designation category be reevaluated. Upon receipt of this request, the Regional Field Office Housing Liaison will review to ensure it's current. If a request for a review of the designation category has been made, this will also be reevaluated, and a new 8004 form will be sent to the care manager. Additionally, anytime there is a significant change in circumstances, the same updated information should be submitted to the Regional Field Office Certified Housing Team. And a determination on the designation status will be made, and a new 8004 form will be sent to the care manager of the Certified Housing Team's determination. Next slide, please. So I'll just bring your attention here to the symbols of the clock as well as the process symbol. So that way it cues you that there are some changes here. So this is a submission of annual updates. Once an annual update is submitted, as described here, the housing liaison will review to ensure that all documents are current. If anything is missing, we'll inform the care manager and supervisor through a missing information letter. If all is current, the active status will remain and referrals will continue to be sent on behalf of the person. Next slide. Again, similar symbols. Here's the designation review committee review. And this is when there's a request for an amended residential support category. So with any significant changes that require the care manager to update the person's packet, or upon request for a re-review of the designation status when updating the packet annually, the designation review committee will review the content of the referral packet submitted and determine if the designation status needs to change. In all cases, when a re-review is requested, the care manager will receive an updated 8004 form. And now I'll turn it over to Cindy for section 7.
I'm back. Okay. This section really reviews the managing of residential opportunities. These are subsections in the ADM. The information mostly relates to the tasks of providers, but it should be noted that you, the care managers, also have involvement with some of these tasks, such as if a person or a family has concerns with their current home, the care manager should help facilitate and help problem solve. Next, please. Okay, quick information here. As stated before in Section 7 of the ADM, it is more heavily involved with the provider tasks. However, care managers will assist the provider and will assist the provider in screening opportunities. Care managers should help coordinate times for a provider to meet with the person that might be a potential match. Care managers must complete the due process letter for people who are Willowbrook class members. And Alexis will do more information on the due process.
Thanks, Cindy. All right, so Section 8 of the ADM covers due process requirements. So moving on. So what's really critical here is for care managers to understand that you are only completing due process letters for class members. For everybody else, the residential provider will be completing that due process letter. That is really the key point I want to highlight here. And then also, I think you all remember that we've been blending this throughout the presentation about the notice of decision related to whether or not somebody is going to be placed on the certified residential opportunities list or not. And that notice of decision is what includes the person's rights for due process. So if we move to the next slide, we will walk you through some key facts related to the appeal and due process for NOD 15. So just some really important basics here. A person can only request a fair hearing as a result of a decision requiring a notice of decision. For example, a person does not agree that they were not authorized for being placed on the CRO list. They can request a fair hearing. They can petition that determination through the fair hearing process, either with a conference or a fair hearing with New York State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. Any other decision made by OPWDD can be discussed through the dispute resolution process, which Delia will cover. So the key facts here, both within the conference and the fair hearing, you can request that up to 60 days from the date articulated on the NOD. You can see how to request and who is involved. Going to the next slide. So when and if an NOD is sent and the person, the advocate, the CCO disagrees with the decision, they have due process rights. So to invoke those due process rights, they can call or email the regional field office director for a conference, or like we said before, they can contact New York State Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. When the request for a conference is requested through a regional field office director or deputy, they will review all of the information that has been submitted with the referral packet. They can meet with the person requesting the conference, and they will also send a letter of the determination. If that decision is overturned, the previous determination, then a new NOD would be sent. And then the CRO team will be notified and update the data in our system, noting that the decision has been changed. If somebody disagrees with the designation status, they would follow dispute resolution, which Delia is going to cover on the next area. So key areas to focus on is that if there's a disagreement with the decision to authorize or not authorize for somebody to be placed on the CRO list, you reach out to the deputy or the director of the regional field office for a conference. They'll review that information. They'll send an updated letter if the determination is reversed or changed from that original determination, and that would be documented through a new notice of decision if the authorization is modified, and all of our details will be updated on our end as a result of that. So that is specific to due process and fair hearing. And now Delia is going to cover the dispute resolution in Section 9 of the ADM.
Thanks. So Alexis reviewed the notice of decision process, which, as she mentioned several times, is different from the dispute resolution process. And the dispute resolution process really pertains to other decisions that the Regional Field Office Certified Housing Team makes with regard to the CRO ADM process. Examples where the dispute resolution is appropriate, if a CCO disagrees with a designation category, it would be appropriate by a provider if we did not support a placement in a specific home, for example. So we'll cover the dispute resolution in some of the other slides. Just hang on here for a second. So while the due process allows for 60 days to request a fair hearing, a person or family or advocate or CCO or provider has 30 days to request dispute resolution when they disagree with a decision that is made by the Regional Field Office Certified Housing Team. I mentioned that before. The party that wants to dispute would need to send an email or letter to the Regional Field Office Director for that specific office, and the director will review and make a decision whether to overturn the Certified Housing Team decision or uphold it. In either case, they will notify the disputing party of their decision. Now, if a person, guardian, advocate, CCO, or provider disagree with the director's decision, they can ask for an administrative review. In this case, they have 14 days from the date of the letter to request an administrative review. An administrative review is requested by written appeal to the commissioner, and the commissioner or her designee will review and make a final determination. Next slide. Here you have your symbols again. So let's review one more time to provide clarity. Those decisions that are not fair hearable, such as designation category, can be disputed by appropriate parties. Those disputes need to be received within 30 days of the decision. They can be sent, again, I'll mention, via email or letter to the Regional Field Office with attention to the director. As shown here, the director will review the material that informed the original decision. They may decide to meet with the objecting party, and they will send a determination if they are going to uphold the original decision or overturn it with a formal letter to the objecting party. If they overturn the decision, a new 8004 will be sent. If they uphold the decision, the objecting party can ask for an administrative review if they are still unsatisfied. We'll move on to the next slide. Okay. And here we have a similar visual for the request for an administrative review. The objecting party would need to submit the request for an administrative review within 14 days of the director's decision. The request for an administrative review should be sent to the commissioner. Upon receipt of the request for an administrative review, the commissioner or her designee would review the material that informed the original decision and that of the director's decision and make a final determination. If the commissioner overturns a decision, a new 8004 form will be sent and the CRO designation category will be modified. And now we'll move on to section 10 with Cindy at the helm. Thank you.
Okay, the last section of the ADM, record retention. Click, please. Okay, all records concerning the CRO process should be saved by the agency for at least 10 years. This includes even documents for people that decide to withdraw their request for a certified setting. This is quick and easy, and now I'm going to turn it over to Alexis.
Thank you so much. All right, wow, we breezed through that material. So what we are going to do now that we have reviewed the CRO ADM, we want to review the IT system that we are building to support both the regs and the ADM. So moving on to the next. So you may or may not have already heard us mention capacity management application. We love our acronyms, so we're going to call it CMA moving forward. So the capacity management application is an application that is built on Microsoft's dynamic platform, similar to Choices. So this CMA application will maintain all of the data regarding certified housing in the cloud and will automate many of the functions we do manually and through email now. We are going to be rolling this out in 3 phases. The first phase we anticipate beginning in the spring of 2025 and will address all of the care managers' tasks associated with the referral application process. And moving on to the next one. So there are so many stakeholders that are going to be using this CMA application and will be pulling information from it. So we've got the care coordination organizations, residential providers, including both state-operated and voluntary operated, and OPWDD personnel and staff, including those in the regional field office, will be accessing and working within this application. As stated previously, this CMA is aimed to improve efficiency with implementing the CRO ADM, improve reliability of data, increase accountability that will ultimately lead to more timely and appropriate placement for those in need of certified housing. We will initiate the process of using the CMA by first testing and then training all of the intended users on how it works, similarly to how we rolled out the START. Next slide. All right, so this has a lot of information on it, but it does show the timeline of activity that will be happening throughout the coming year and into 2026. So again, we have a phased-in approach so that we can allow everybody the opportunity to acclimate themselves to both the ADM and the new system build around it. As you can see, we issued the CRO ADM on December 19th. Today is the first of training specifically on the ADM. Later this month, we'll be training both voluntary providers and state operations. And as stated earlier, all of the new CRO forms will begin to be used on March 3rd, 2025. So again, the new forms that are on our website and connected to the CRO ADM, the start date for using all of those forms moving forward is March 3rd, 2025. And until further notice, we are going to be accepting those forms via the regional field office mailbox that we articulated earlier in the presentation. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that we are talking about when the forms are being used starting on March 3rd, 2025. Prior to the first phase going live in the spring of 2025, we are going to be testing the application first with our regional field office staff and then with the CCOs. In the fall of 2025, with all of the current people on CRO, we will have updated and current packets received at the time of the annual or the 6-month review, whichever is sooner. Then phase 1 will have been fully implemented and the rollout for phase 1 will be complete. We will then initiate phase 2, going live with the providers and state operations. So this is where site profiles, vacancy announcements are both going to be automated. Phase 2, we anticipate going live in the fall of 2025 and the rollout being completed in the winter of 2025. So similar to phase 1, there will be testing and training prior to these phases going live. As phase 2 is fully implemented and we complete all of the certified sites, demographics, and vacancies noted, we can begin phase 3. Again, as the slide shows, we anticipate phase 3 being initiated in the winter of 2025 and being fully completed by spring of 2026. And it is with the completion of phase 3 where we would have the CRO ADM being fully effective, meaning every single aspect of the ADM is in place and live in that capacity management system. With phase 3 being fully implemented by the spring of 2026, the automation and matching of opportunities will occur. Reports will be available for CCOs and providers. And again, it's at that time that the CRO ADM becomes fully effective. So I just want to emphasize this is a huge undertaking. There's been a lot of thought and consideration, just understanding the need to kind of pull away from emails, from paper, and to try to make this a really automated process. And Anne-Marie would have been with us today to present this. She's really taken the lead in kind of leading us forward with this IT infrastructure update. And with that, I will turn it over to our last slide, which is related to questions. So I believe we're going to take a moment to review questions that we weren't able to respond to in the presentation. And the hope is that we'll have an FAQ resource to pair with this presentation and be responsive to the outstanding questions that you all have. So I'm going to pause and turn it over to the room who's running the webinar.
Hi, Alexis. Do we want to just mute for a moment to review the questions coming through and come back online in about 2 or 3 minutes? Great.
Sounds good.
Okay, hello everybody. You're back, I'm back, we're all back. There are some questions here that I would like to give some clarification on. Let's see, one of them says, in the past, I've been submitting justification letter as a support document. Is this required now or after March 3rd? The justification letter is no longer a requirement or a suggestion as ever, but as of March 3rd, yes, no more justification letters, just submit updates to the CRO packet using the revised forms. So I hope that answers your question on that. There is another question. Let's see, something about, I should have wrote it down, I apologize. Something about a psychosocial, oh yes. If I'm submitting a CRO packet before March 3rd, 2025, do I need to include an updated psychosocial? It seems like it's optional with the update, but mandated currently. A psychosocial is not a mandated document for the CRO referral, either before or after the CRO ADM, either before or after March 3rd. It is the psychological report that is a mandated document. It is the physical that is a mandated document. It is the life plan or in-process life plan and the referral form that are mandated documents for before the CRO ADM and after the CRO ADM. Let's see, if I have an old H005 and an annual review, will they need to complete a new form at that time? Yes. When it is time for an annual review of the CRO referral, you need to replace the old referral form with the new referral form. Let's see.
The question of if you're seeking residential for anyone under 18, are you going through the same process similar to adults?
Yes. Most important fact is to look into less restrictive options. If a person is under the age of 18, it would be pretty common to say that they're still involved with the school district. So the school district has to be involved with the planning of that person.
There was also, everybody did a great job outlaying the timeframes and how reminders will be sent to keep a packet active, but there were some questions about how often those reminders are sent from the regional office and who is receiving that at the CCO and how to accommodate for care manager turnover. Okay,
a lot of great points in that one question, so I appreciate that.
Kind of melded some together.
Yes. Okay, so the reminders will be going out through the capacity management application. Those reminders are pretty much coming from the life plan, when the life plan needs to be updated in an annual clock, with the annual clock. That's when the reminders will go out to care managers, and it'll go out to care managers and care manager supervisors. It will be when at the time of the life plan, and then 30 days, if need be, 30 days after that, if need be, 30 days after that. We would hope that the care manager supervisor would be addressing the need for the CRO referral to be updated when the life plan is updated. And speaking about updating, when there is a change in care managers or care manager or CCO organizations, it is the responsibility of either the care manager that is leaving to update the referral form with the new care manager's name and contact information, or the care manager supervisor to update the information. It is so incredibly important to have accurate, updated contact information on a CRO referral.
So just to, and this has been clarified quite a bit, but just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, because we had a few of these comments, to reaffirm on an annual basis when the care manager updates the CRO packet, which means that the care manager will update the new H005 form and submit with the updated life plan, physical, and psychological report, correct?
Yes.
And that those things have to be current. We don't have specific time frames on things outside of the physical and the life plan, but that they are current to the person's functioning this day.
Yes.
Okay. So those who have an existing CRO referral on the old form, when they do an update after March of this year, it will need to be on that new form.
Yes. I mean, you're more than welcome to, when you're doing an update, let's say, tomorrow, if you want to update and use the revised form, you're more than welcome to do that. We appreciate that, but it doesn't have to be done until March 3rd.
And you can find those forms on our website, all listed conveniently under the ADM.
Yes, they are attachments in the ADM.
And if there are any changes in this current timeline, we will be notifying CCO leadership, and that information will be communicated to you.
Yes.
Okay, so other panelists that are on, looking at the questions that have come on, is there anything additional that anybody else would like to add?
Amanda, there's a question about whether or not the H004 form includes information about an individual's right to appeal their support category. The bottom of the form does include specific information advising actions and steps on any party who objects to their designated residential support category.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, yes. At the bottom of H004, it does lay out the dispute resolution process, yes. So there were a couple of questions regarding the CAS, and the CAS is a requirement for a completed CRO referral as of March 3rd. Let's see, we, again, are more than willing to accept a completed CAS as part of a CRO referral now, but it will be mandated as of March 3rd. If a person doesn't have a current CAS assessment, we will not review that CRO referral. Another question that just popped into my head. If a person is in a IRA now and wants to move to another IRA, they're more than welcome to submit a CRO referral on that person. If a person puts in a CRO referral and the certified housing team deems the person's needs not to be demonstrated for a certified setting, then they will not go on any CRO list, whether it be an emergency need, substantial need, or a current need. The referral will be declined. Okay, we're just about ready to end our session today. However, I do want to add that we will have an additional training when the CMA is up and functional, so you will hear back from us then. Let's see.
The CMA will have that functionality that once you complete the form in that system, that annually you'll go in and update it, but you won't need to redo everything annually. You'll just go in and update it similar to LC, DN, or other forms.
Yes, yes, thank you. The H005 in the CMA has answer question fields, so it'll be much easier to update and change information on that application, in that application. So everything, it will be much more efficient and effective once that system becomes up and running, functional.
Great.
Any last thoughts? Any last questions?
We do still have some things coming in, and as I understand it, we'll be reviewing these and consolidating for a question and answers document.
Yes, yes. We definitely feel that more information is better. So, yes, we appreciate your questions. We will answer them and create a frequently asked questions document. And I want to thank you all for your time and patience with us, and wish you a very, very happy, healthy New Year. Right?
Great. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.